That fella couldn't do anything. He couldn't even kneel to pray. And he got saved. Are you saved? That fella couldn't join the church. He couldn't join the church. He couldn't get baptized. He couldn't get baptized. He woke up with God. He woke up with the devil. Are you saved? So that fella didn't take the sacraments, didn't take the sacraments. Didn't say the rosary, didn't take the rosary. Didn't tithe, didn't tithe. He went to heaven, he went to hell. You saved? Didn't keep the law, he didn't keep the law. He broke the commandments, he broke the commandments. He didn't keep the golden rule, he didn't keep the golden rule. He woke up in glory, he woke up in the pit. Are you saved? You're saved. If you're not saved, you're over here or you're over here. You sure ain't in the middle. He said, Lord, remember me, thou comest thy kingdom. And Jesus turned to him and said, verily I say unto thee, today shalt thou be saved. It's like that. You have been saved? If you ever saved, you were saved like that.
All right. In this video, I want to talk about Christian associations. And I think this is strange because it seems as though Christians are rarely actually associated with Jesus Christ, with his word, right? Because if you say you're Christian, a lot of times you get associated with being a Republican, for being MAGA, for being a Trump worshiper, for wanting to join church and state, for being for Agenda 2025, that you are for the prosperity gospel, that you're Roman Catholic, and that you blindly follow the Roman Pope, and other such things. They're associating it pretty much now with white power and fascism and Nazism, and oddly enough, also Zionism, right? And it's just strange, right? You're getting associated with things that you have nothing to do with, right? Because as a Christian, I have nothing to do with everything I just mentioned. Matter of fact, I'm pretty sure everything I just mentioned, I actually am against and speak out against. I follow Jesus, right? And Jesus wasn't for the governments of this world. Satan offered him the kingdoms of this world, and he said, no, thank you. The people around him at one point wanted to make him king, and he was like, nope, and he snuck out of there, right? He wasn't trying to rule here as a physical king, to establish a physical kingdom, at least not yet, right? And he even said, hey, this coin, it has Caesar's inscription on it, so give unto Caesar what is Caesar's, right? So he was like, yeah, pay tribute to Caesar. It's his money you're using anyway, right? So I am definitely not for joining church and state. As a matter of fact, I'm against pretty much all the denominations, because as far as I know, every single denomination is a 501c3 or 501c4 tax-exempt organization where they are joined to the state. They're basically a state organization, and to keep their tax-exempt status, they need to basically not talk about certain things, or if they talk about a certain subject, they have to talk about it in a certain way, right? Like they have to be basically pro-government, right? Not that they have to agree with every little policy, but they can't be against the United States. The same thing with Israel, right? They don't have to agree with everything there, but they can't be against Israel. They can't go against NASA, right? You'll notice that with all these churches, they don't want to talk about these certain things there, right? They have to do with the government, right? They might do a little bit of nitpicking, but it's generally support of the governments of this world, which are Satan's kingdom. That's another thing. The Bible tells us that Satan is the god of this world. So, yeah, I'm not for the governments in joining church or state. I look at history and I see every time this happens, people get killed. the early church ended up mixing with Rome eventually, and they started killing all the other Christians off that didn't agree with their version of Christianity. That's not very Christian of them, right? All the way through crusades and inquisitions, right? And then you have Calvin, who got pretty much some state power, and he followed suit, and he burned people alive like a psychopath, right? That's not very Christian either. And then the Anglican Church, right, mixed with the state of England, and they started killing people. And then even in the Americas, the Puritans, they got some power, and they did the Salem witch trials. So it's never good when the church and the state mix together. Never. I'm completely and totally against it because I see it as spiritual adultery against God. God is our head. Why are you mixing with the kingdoms of this world that he rejected? Why? Right? And because of that, I find it odd that people never take the time to ask me why I'm Christian, how long have I been Christian, or anything like that. It's just like, no, you must be Republican, you must be MAGA, right? Where I'm not a Republican, but I'm not a Democrat either, right? I'm not any part of that. I see both sides as evil, and I'm not one of those boneheads that's going to say, well, I'm going to choose the lesser of two evils. And then because you voted, you basically consented to whoever wins. So even if the person wins that you didn't vote for, you have to accept it because you participated in the vote. So that was pretty dumb. So I'm completely against that. And I'm definitely not MAGA. I see MAGA as just a slogan to try to win people over. I see it as obviously something to do with Satanism, being that MAGA is the name of the highest rank in Satanism, or the highest order of priesthood they have. And MAGA in a few different languages means something along with witch and warlock, sorcerer, right? And yeah, so I'm definitely not for that. And when it comes to Trump, I actually see Trump as not just an antichrist. I think he is the antichrist. So I'm definitely not for him. I am completely and totally against him. I would admit that when he was going against Clinton back then, he looked better, but I wasn't still for him. I thought he was always a rich, pompous ass, and I don't know how he got such support. He's obviously a false Christian because he says, oh, well, I don't bring God in the equation of forgiveness. Well, you can't be a Christian unless you come to God for forgiveness, right? So he's obviously just a con man playing Christians for fools, and he's doing a good job of it. And a lot of Christians are going along with it. But I would have said back then he looked like the lesser of two evils, but I still saw him as evil, so I wasn't going to vote for him because he didn't represent me, and I didn't want him to represent me, right? And then when he goes up again against Biden, it was kind of like, well, they're the same guy, right? Both old perverts. So it's like, well, which old pervert do you want? The one in blue or the one in red, right? And then when he goes up against Harris, it's just kind of like, oh, do you want a woman who cackles? Or do you want this guy? And it's like, yeah, right? It's like they put people next to Trump to make it where you're like, well, I guess he's better than that person, right? And I'm not going to vote for that. I'm not going to vote for like, oh, well, I don't like either one, but I guess I'll go with this one because that one, I just doesn't know, right? No, right? It's just not gonna, right? So I don't like being associated with that. And I think it's weird that like atheists, they associate you with Roman Catholics and they'll start talking about the Crusades and Inquisitions. And it was like, yeah, Crusades are definitely anti-Christian. Where did Jesus say to do anything like that? Why are you associating me with the Roman church and not with Jesus, who taught to do the opposite of that? Like, I don't condone the Crusades. I wasn't part of it. And I'm not part of the church that did take part in that. And then the Inquisitions, a lot of the people that they killed were actually Christians, people who just didn't want to be Catholic or didn't want to be Catholic anymore. They wanted to follow Jesus, right? How they saw fit according to their own conscience, like me. So they burned them alive, along with the Bibles. So I don't know how you are associating them with Christian when they're not following Jesus and they burn his Bible, right, his word. But for some reason they associate that with Christianity. So if you're Christian, they associate you with all that nonsense. But it's basically just a straw man, right? And it's just tough to really talk to anybody, right? Because I'll wear a shirt that will say, like, Jesus is coming soon, for example, right? And it's like people associate me with, like, white power or something. And it's kind of like, I think that says more about everybody else, right? I mean, even like Catholics, they'll associate you with such a thing. And it's kind of like, aren't you for Jesus and Jesus coming back? So how come you're associating that with something like white power? Are you against Jesus and him coming back or something? It doesn't make any sense. And the fact that you associate Jesus with such a thing is weird, right? Very weird. But what are you going to do? Right? It's kind of like they're looking at true Christianity. They don't see it. They're just associating with it some kind of colonizing, brainwashing control that they want to have everybody to be into this cultural Christianity so that they can control everybody. And they think that you're part of it and trying to get everybody else part of it, even though you're actually following Jesus and fighting against such a thing. Right? It's kind of like you're in the middle. What's that song that just popped into my head? It was like, I got clowns on the right of me and jokers to the left, and I'm stuck here in the middle with you. Something like that anyway. Clowns and jokers. And it's like, yeah, you got on one side of you to the right, or what have you, you got all these false Christian groups that all the people who are unbelievers, when they look at you, they're looking past you at all the false Christians, and they think that you are with them, but you have nothing to do with them. Matter of fact, you're fighting against them and the nonsense that they're preaching and their hypocrisy and everything. But then when you're on the left, you got all the people, like basically the unbelievers in one way, shape, or form. They don't believe in Christianity or Jesus, and all the false Christians are almost associating you with them, right? Because you're not for this unity at all costs. Like, give up your own beliefs for the sake of unity, because you need to join with us to fight against the unbelievers. And it's like, well, our fight is not a physical fight. We're not here to fight unbelievers. We're here to save them. Like when Jesus was rejected by the Samaritan village, his disciples were like, hey, should we rain fire down on him like Elijah did? And Jesus was like, hey, do you not know what spirit you're of? I came to save men's lives, not destroy them. And then here Christians are, they're ready to have a physical fight against unbelievers. They're willing to join with the state to basically force their beliefs and ideas onto other people, because that's the Christian way to do it. When the Christian way to do it is like, no, let them try to impose their beliefs on us, and then let us stand firm in our beliefs in spite of them trying to force it on us. And then even let them push it to the far reaches of persecution where they try to imprison you and put you to death. So then that would reach them, so that they can see that you truly believe and you're willing to die for your beliefs, that would get through to them, that you're not fighting against them and you're willing to die instead of fighting against them to show them who they really are, to then get them saved. Like I tell these Catholics about the Crusades. They're like, well, if we didn't do the Crusades, the Muslims would have taken over and killed everybody and we would all be Muslim. Really? So, Jesus should have did something when he was being, falsely accused and crucified, because, we were all going to become Roman Jews, because the Jews and Romans, they killed him. But what happened? He died. He rose again. And then everybody started converting to Christianity. And they couldn't do anything about it, because the people who were Christian were willing to die. Right? So if you were truly Christian, when the Muslims started coming in, you would have resisted them without violence, even to the point where they killed you, to get them converted and let God fight the battle and save their souls. But instead you fought and killed them off so that they can't be saved. I wonder who wanted you to do that. I don't think it was Jesus, but I know somebody who would want you to do that. Somebody like Satan, maybe, Lucifer. Yeah, go kill him. Then they'll, show that your God is stronger. And then they die, they can't get saved now. You just sent them to hell. What a lovely Christian you are. Made it so they can never get saved. And then you set an example to all their family and friends and countrymen that, Christianity's the way to go. Right? You're just setting a bad example. And it's crazy because calling yourself Christian, you got to realize that what comes with the territory, this association with all this other nonsense. And not only that, nobody wants to even talk to you about it. Right? See, you can't clear it up. You can't be like, I don't believe all this other nonsense. All this other stuff with all these people claiming to be Christian, that has nothing to do with me. Sometimes like talking to Catholics, they'll start talking about Calvin and Calvinism. They'll start talking about Luther and Lutheranism. They'll talk about the Anglican Church. They'll start talking about Mormons and Seventh-day Adventists. They'll start talking about all these different Protestant denominations. And I'll be like, okay, what does any of that have to do with me? Nothing. And they'll say something like, well, they all think they're sola scriptura and they're all following the Bible. And I'd be like, so? How does this prove that what I believe is wrong? What you're saying is like, all these other people believe something different than me. That means I'm wrong? Because that's a very stupid argument. Right? That's like saying, oh, you're wrong because there's an Orthodox church that claims to be that trace all the way back to the apostles. So that means you're wrong. Right? And you'd be like, no, that's not how it works. And be like, exactly. Just because someone disagrees with you doesn't mean you're wrong. You actually have to prove how you're wrong and they're right. Or how that you're both wrong. Right? But, people. It's like nobody has eyes to see, no one has ears to hear. Everybody's hard-hearted, very stubborn, very prideful, very angry and hateful. And that's the thing, is that these people generally, they seem like reasonable people, right? This is the weird thing. A lot of people, you may experience the same thing. They seem like normal, rational, reasonable people, even intelligent. But then when all of a sudden Christianity comes up, or you mention something about your faith, or they read your shirt, all of a sudden they're irrational, they're irritated, and they start treating you as if you're not even a human anymore, right? And it's just kind of like, what happened? All right, it's definitely something weird and spiritual. Very weird. I think I'm exaggerating, like, how bad it is. But when it keeps happening, you start to remember, you start to take note of it, and then you put it all together, and you start to realize all these weird associations and everything, and why people end up talking to you the way they do and acting the way they do towards you, and you come to find out that they don't care that they don't know you, just the way that you look. They made all kinds of judgments about you, and they already know everything about you. And they don't care about anything else. Right? And then they'll blame you for the way they treat you and talk to you. Right? It's so weird. Like the spiritual battle going on where people's minds are just totally warped and taken over and clouded and blinded. Or nobody will even take a moment to reason about anything. And it's weird. Sometimes when you talk to somebody about something reasonable like this, sometimes their response is as if you're using some kind of smooth talk, silver tongue, witchcraft on them. Right? What you're saying makes sense, and they're like, yeah, it makes all sense, but it can't be true because it disagrees with my beliefs. It disagrees with my church. It disagrees with my political party. It disagrees with whatever it is they're standing on. So they're like, yeah, even though it makes sense and it seems right, it can't be right. It's just a mind trick. And it's kind of like, no, it's called logic. It's called reason. It's called common sense. Right? That's what it is. It's not a trick. But it's weird that that's how people seem to react to the truth, right? They react to critically thinking and just simplifying things to show them how this is a wrong way to go and a wrong thing to believe, and this is the right way to go and the right thing to believe. And they're like, that sounds absolutely right, and I can't refute it, but I know it's not right. And it's like, what can you do with that? Right? What can you do with that? You're just like, all right, well, I can't reason with you. So all I can do is, pray for you. I don't say that to anybody because everybody gets offended by that. And usually that's what people say, like, when they lose an argument. Oh, I'll pray for you. I'll pray God opens your eyes. Right? Just a lot of people troll you with such things. So usually I'll just be like, all right, well, I'll see you later. Talk to you later. Have a good day. I'll leave it as that. All right? Or if they keep pushing it, I'll be like, can you leave me alone? I'll be straightforward about it like that. I'll be like, yeah, I don't care about what are you going to say about this. We just don't agree, and I'd rather not keep butting heads with you. How about we just go about our day? All right? I'll just try to end it, because what's the point? What's the point, right? But anyway, thank you for hearing me out. Take care. I'll see you in the next one. All right, it's the end of the video. And I figured I would do an ending segment to my video so I don't have to keep repeating myself. But I do want to remind you to do what Isaiah said to do and seek out the book of the Lord and read it, putting line upon line, precept upon precept, here a little, there a little, doing what Paul said, and studying the word, showing yourself approved unto God, rightly dividing the word of truth. And if you read English, that would be the KJV. And then do what John has Jesus recorded telling the Church of Philadelphia, and keep his word, preserve it, protect it, hide it in your hearts, and not deny his name. And then Jesus will never be able to tell you do err not knowing the scriptures, and he will keep you from the hour of temptation, which is going to come upon all those that dwell upon the earth here shortly. And with that being said, I'd like to ask you for your support. You watching the video all the way to the end helps out a lot, but if you could like, subscribe, hit the bell icon, share the video, share the channel, interact in the comments section. These things help out a lot, especially with people telling me that their likes are not being registered, that they get unsubscribed, and all kinds of other ways being shadow banned. Your help in this way was greatly appreciated. And if you're able to give me a little bit more time and pray to our Heavenly Father that he keeps this ministry going and he uses it to reach those who he wants to reach, to get the truth out to the world, to make it a bright light, and to feed his sheep, to feed his children, even to bring forth more children, and that he would watch over all of us, his born-again believers, and take care of us, provide for us, and protect us, even after he comes and gets us, which looks like it's going to be real soon. And just to amen in Jesus' name to that should be all we need. But if you could help out some more, I know times are rough and they look like they're getting rougher, but if you're able to support financially, there's a few ways you can do so in the info description box, such as PayPal, Venmo, and there's a couple other ways you can support if you so choose to do so, which would make sure I can keep this ministry going longer than the foreseeable future, because this kind of support has been drying up there. It's pretty much non-existent lately. So if you could help out in that way, it would be greatly appreciated to make sure I can keep doing this. But if you could at least pray, I know God will provide. And sometimes it's a change of ministry, so maybe it won't be a ministry online anymore. But hey, if you want to keep seeing this stuff, pray. And with all that being said, thank you so much again for your time and attention, for watching this video all the way through. I appreciate it. Take care of yourself. I'll see you in the next one, and may God bless you and yours.